Introduce yourself.
I'm Doug English. This is my dad, Alan English, and he was here at the Rumble Park.
Yeah, the Rumble Park.
He was here at the Rumble Park, and from my recollection, we spent, 2 nights filming that,
Yeah,
correct?
It went on forever.
It did seem to go on forever.
And about 2 o'clock in the morning, it got mighty cold because everybody was getting wet.
Yeah, and it was, the first night it rained, and then the second night it cleared off, and so that created a problem when they were going to do the splicing on it, because they were shooting the same scene over and over, if I remember.
Well, they had fire hoses hooked up to
Right.
the fire hydrant somewhere.
That was the second night, though.
Shooting the...
Yeah, and they had these
hoses
poles
in the air
with sprinklers on the end of them, and they hooked them up to the fire hoses. And I remember they had firemen out here, and when Coppola would cue it, they would turn on the rain.
And didn't you start a big bonfire to keep?
Yeah, we had probably, I don't remember exactly where it was, but probably behind us, I think, maybe in that area right there, they had a big bonfire, and everybody would kind of gather around it. Everybody would gather around it.
I took quite a few pictures.
I remember. Yeah, some great black and white ones.
Black and white pictures.
Yeah, 35.
That was a pretty new camera that I had.
Was that an old Pentax or
something like that?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a lot of fun, but it was hard to keep track of you in that mob. So.
And I can remember that because it was wet and sloppy, wardrobe would take a snapshot of you, and then they would make you get undressed, and they had these a trailer set up with several washing machines, and they would tag everybody's clothes, wash them, and then bring them back to you, and then they would look at the picture they had of you and make sure that you had 3 buttons still buttoned, and that your sleeves were pulled down the same way.
Well, you had 2 complete sets, two complete outfits,
and they would
that
rotate
matched,
them.
Yeah.
And we just filmed that over and over, and it was quite exciting. If I remember right, we pulled up from here along these tree lines, the Socias did, and then the greasers were already here around the fire waiting for us. So I think that we came in from the north to the south on this street right here, and came pulling up maybe right along in here, and the train of Soch cars came, and I think the blue Mustang was first, and pardon my memory, it was a long time ago, but I think the blue Mustang came first, and then the Corvair was behind it.
It was only 25 years ago.
Well, I'm telling you, I've only gotten better looking, haven't I? But
I've gotten white hair.
I've got
weren't there
myself.
crew trailers parked over there along the road, along the street?
This whole area was inundated with trailers.
Yeah,
I thought so. You had your Teamsters and your catering truck, and that was one thing that impressed me on the set, was all of the great food. I mean, they just kept it. It didn't seem to be an issue of cost. They kept everybody fed and well lubricated, liquor-cated.
What'd you do with your money, by the way? All the money you earned. I was counting on that for
I don't know. I gave it to you to invest. I gave it to you to invest. What'd you do with it?
Oh, okay.
No, actually, I bought a 70 Buick Skylark convertible.
Convertible.
Yeah, nice car.
And it turned in, eventually became a classic car, right?
Yes.
In Arizona, in Arkansas.
Yeah. In fact, I sold that car to a guy who totally rebuilt it, and it now travels in the Darrell Starboard World of Wheels. It's yellow and black. And Darrell, if you see this, I want to buy the car back at cost. Okay. How do we do it? At cost.
Same price.
Same price. I'll throw a little in for the paint job, but I'd sure like to have that one back. So. But,
okay, good. That was some good stuff.
That a lot of my friends had gotten calls, and I was kind of disappointed, because I didn't think, I thought, well, I guess I screwed up. But and Mike G, my friend Mike G from high school, and I had gone up to Keystone Lake, which is west of here, about 20 miles, and we were drinking a few beers and sailing the sailboat. And I remember it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and my dad came up, and he had driven around. He wasn't sure where we were camping.
I was looking for you.
But he knew we were at one of 2 campgrounds, and he drove around, and finally he found us. And I remember him waking me up about 2 or 3 in the morning, and saying you need to be
gotta
in
call.
for you got to call for a screen test in the morning at like some ungodly hour, like 7 a.m. And it was like, okay, I'll come. And I remember because I went into that screen test, and at this point I never met Francis Coppola, but he was actually sitting in a chair, and I was a little bit freaked out by it. And they gave me like 5 minutes to look at the line, and if I remember right, the screen test was I think I was supposed to play the Dally, the oldest Curtis brother, just for the part I was reading.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to get mad at Ponyboy for being out too late or falling asleep in the park or something like that. At any rate, and in this scene, I was supposed to get mad, and there were a few props on the table, and I remember I grabbed this glass and I slammed it down on the table, and it kind of cracked, and I don't know what kind of an actor I was at that point, but I screamed my lines, and
I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah, I think you guys were out maybe in the hall for that. Is that right?
All 4 of us were.
Yeah.
All
So,
5 of us.
and I think, did I go last?
You were like, couldn't believe that the guy was like, I thought something was going on. I thought there was a war going on in there because I'd already read my lines. I was just, passive.
And I was just trying to have a good time with it, and I thought, well, if I get mad, that might be something I would do. So.
Well, we were standing outside the door, and believe me, we were looking at each other thinking, what is wrong with this guy? He's not going to get the part. He's acting like a freak. And lo and behold, he gets the speaking lines, and we get the mumbo-jumbo
He was
stuff.
still under the influence of the beer.
He must have been.
At least,
He certainly smelled like
hungover. It
alcohol.
might have helped, But we had a good time back then.
We all had a
It's
good
called
time.
acting under the influence.
Acting under the influence. There were plenty of times for that.
And who would think they'd ever pay you for that?
Right.
It's one of those.
No, we had to pay. We had to buy our own beer. Come on.
Well, we could afford it. We could afford
The tall
it.
boys.
What were they?
Oh well, there are several times we had all kinds of alcohol on the set. There were the 5-star catering guy had
Little
champagne
things.
bottles of champagne bottles that
I
he would just.
swindled a few of those out.
Do you
of
remember
him.
that? I mean,
Oh,
they had
yeah.
everything you wanted
And then the
under
little
the sun.
kings, the little green bottle.
Right,
little
and we
kings.
could just walk
Oh,
up
yeah.
anytime we wanted and grab a sandwich. You could
because I
grab.
was probably sliding them under my jacket. So
You could have him
wouldn't
make
see.
a steak for you. If you
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to. He would do
they
anything.
spared
He was
no
the coolest.
expense on
That
the
guy
food.
was really
It was
cool guy.
phenomenal. Thanks, Francis, for the food and beer and sweet.
Yeah.
If you get this, you call me. I hear you got a place down in the Bahamas or Belize, actually. He does, really.